Hello everybody. I'm Joe. As Pudu introduced me, I'm a consultant geologist here in the Perth office, and I am specializing in the rollout of Studio Geo. So hopefully you've heard a little bit about Studio Geo. It's one of Datamine's newest products, and it's basically focused around the implicit modeling side of the kind of geological process. So as we were just saying, this is going to be part of a webinar series. So we're going to go through three separate webinars, all touching on slightly different aspects. Of course, if you do want to learn more, so we only have so much time to go through the various tools that we have on offer, please just reach out to me. I'm more than happy to have a sit down with people one-on-one and go through all the tools that we have on offer and to make sure it's right for you. So just in this webinar, what we're going to be looking at is the quick and efficient geological models using Studio Geo. So what I'm going to do is first just run everybody through a short PowerPoint, just so everybody is kind of familiar with what Studio Geo is, what it can do. And then I'll jump into a little live demo where we're just going to create a model basically from scratch and show you some of the basic tools. Then the week after, we're actually going to go through a bunch of the implicit wireframing options. So this is basically how we make our shapes, more accurate and closer to what we might expect in our deposits. And then the week after that, we're going to look at Studio Geo compared to Studio RM and see where the differences are. So that's just to help you make an informed decision on what product is suitable for you. So just having a look at our, integrated solutions. So as you guys probably know, we do have a lot of products here at Datamine. So these are the kind of operational softwares that we have. So these are the softwares that get used by geos, engineers, and kind of the exploration team. So as you'd expect, Studio Geo lies right here in the middle of the Geology suite of softwares. So it lies alongside things like Studio RM, Supervisor, and Studio Mapper. So one of the best things about Studio Geo is it connects to all of our other softwares. There's no need to do file conversions or transfers. Everything from these software suites is interchangeable. So just keep that in mind when going forward. Quite often in Australia, a lot of people have different softwares for different jobs. So Studio Geo aims to kind of keep it all in the one platform so we don't have to keep going through the conversion process. So just another quick look at some of the other softwares we have. So we do have production and kind of our analytical softwares. So these are our kind of production accounting suite and then also our assay stuff. So similar to the other ones, it's all sharing one file format. It's all in the one company. So our files kind of go to and from all these softwares pretty seamlessly. So what are we going to cover during this webinar? So first things first, the dynamic modeling toolbar. I'll go into this in detail. This is basically our main tool that we're going to use in Studio Geo. This is where we build out our workflow. So if you haven't seen this before, we're going to go through it, a couple of slides to do with it, just to know how it works before we jump into the demo. We're then going to go through importing data into the dynamic modeling system. This is using the drill hole importer, which is an important concept in Studio Geo, as once we've linked our drill holes, it means that we can refresh our model. We're then going to quickly set up our model. We'll then generate a combined geology wireframe. And then finally, we're going to edit our wireframes using our interval selection tools. Like I said, next week, we're going to go through how do we actually change these wireframes into, more accurate to the geology. So just having a bit of an overarching look, what is Studio Geo? So Studio Geo at its heart is geological modeling software. It's meant to streamline the process of interpreting and updating our models. So it works a little bit different from the implicit tools that we have in Studio RM. There are a lot of shared concepts and we'll go through those. But the main thing with Studio Geo is it's streamlined. So we'll see how it updates our models as we get into the demo. So great thing about Studio Geo is that it can be used at every stage of the mining lifecycle. So you can go all the way from exploration to production. This can be using the same project, the same wireframes, the same kind of drill hole databases. The other really good thing about Studio Geo is it integrates with other industry standard databases. So Fusion, Acquire, Sable, even Microsoft Access. And of course, it also integrates with our other Datamine products, so Studio RM, Supervisor, etc. So these are just a couple of pictures to kind of show you what we're going to expect to see within Studio Geo. So on this next slide, we're going to have a little snapshot into what the dynamic modeling toolbar is. So this is the dynamic modeling toolbar. This is basically where we're going to build a workflow. So basically a set of instructions that we want Studio Geo to do. And then it's going to use all these instructions to build our model from the ground up. So this is a different workflow style to Studio RM, which is a kind of a sandbox is what we call it, where you can basically do all of your operations in a number of different ways. So Studio Geo, instead of generating a single wireframe at a time, like we do in RM, will actually generate an entire set. So that's all done straight through this dynamic modeling toolbar. The best thing about the dynamic modeling toolbar is that we can actually rerun our models. So if we get new drill data in, instead of having to regenerate several different wireframes, we can simply regenerate them all at once, and we can have an updated model typically within a couple of minutes. So just with Studio Geo, we're not going to go into every tool today, obviously, but just know that this process can also generate and do a number of different tasks. So we can also generate fault block models, we can generate block models, and we can add macros. So there's a lot of different things that we can do with Studio Geo. And once we do have this workflow set up, it does make it very easy to go through and update our data. So just going on from there, one important thing in Studio Geo is our dynamic drill hole importer. So this is the same as the one that we have in RM. So the important thing here is a link to the drill hole importer allows us to directly connect to either a database or database dumps, so CSV files. So once we have this all linked up and ready to go, it means that we can actually update our drilling as we get more drilling in. So as you can see here, we might start off with only 20 or 30 drill holes. Maybe it was an exploration program that's now been upgraded. And now with a single click, we can then import all of our drill holes. So in practice, we're probably going to be adding only a couple of drill holes every day, but the process still stands. You can import the drill holes and then update your model, and all of your wireframes will change to encompass this new data. All right, so finally, just before we get to the demo, we are going to be going through a number of things to do with adding detail. So this is more for next week. But one thing that we really tried to do with Studio Geo is allow it to have more detail than just the implicit modeling. So implicit modeling is obviously very good, but we're basically using a maths algorithm to generate the shape for us. So what we've done in Studio Geo is we've both put in the implicit and explicit tools. So you can use a combination of these where you need to. So typically in areas where you do want high detail, so in this case, maybe it's a quartz vein in a face photo, we can actually do that. We can create the wireframe explicitly and then insert it into our process. We have other things like adding additional points, which is up here. So these are just anchor points that help us anchor our wireframe. And we can do stuff like integrating fault data into our wireframes. So that's it here. We can see there's been a lot of movement on this fault here. And then we've got a much younger intrusion coming through the middle, which is not deformed at all. So now we're on to the demo. So let me just pull up Studio Geo and we'll actually have a little look and see what Studio Geo looks like. All right. So this is a Studio Geo window. Probably from the get-go, one thing you will notice is that it does look quite similar to RM. We have the same ribbons up here, so you'll probably notice some of these look very familiar. Probably one of the good things about Geo is because it is quite similar to RM. If you do have any RM experience, it doesn't actually require much effort to kind of get up to speed. So you don't require another whole 2 or 3 day training course. all you really need to focus in on is this dynamic modeling toolbar right here. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to import some drill holes from scratch. So I'm just going to use the drill hole importer. And right here, I've got some CSVs. So I'm just going to drag and drop my CSVs in. So this is a bit different from the old holes 3D method. We can import CSVs directly now. So once we've read all these, you'll see down here, we've got everything here. These are just showing us that it's all linked together. So in this case, you might want to go through some of these and just make sure, everything's mapped to the correct column. So I can see here my depth didn't map correctly. So I can just come in here and tick it onto length. This is just making sure the desurveying process works correctly. We do have a validate tab here. This is kind of more important for exploration companies where you mightn't necessarily have a QA/QC geo constantly on hand. So what you can do is you can use this system to basically check all of your validation errors. Now it says missing color record because I'm only importing less than half of my drill holes, but you can see down here, it'll just let you know what errors you might have and if we can fix them or if we need to send them to the QA/QC geo. So once we're happy with that, we can come into this final page here, which is our desurvey page. I'm going to name my drill hole something new, so I'm going to call it Geo Drill Holes. GeoDH. And with that, all I've got to do is press generate drill holes. Go yes. So we do have a number of different options for how we desurvey, so you can access it through the options button. If you currently have RM, you can explore this just through the drill hole importer menu, kind of see what you can do with it. So right now it's just desurveying our drill holes, generating a file for us. And then we'll see here, we've got a little summary of all of our drill holes. So we can kind of check through this and make sure everything has imported correctly. So I'm going to click out of this. We now have my drill holes loaded there. And I'm just going to go here and I'm going to find my drill holes. So there they are. There's not many. So we're going to add some more to this after we've generated the first model. So first of all, this is our main dynamic modeling toolbar. And here's where I'm going to build out my workflow. So the first thing I might want to do is I might want to import a topography file. So this is just going to be used as like the cap of my model. So I can simply add that here. I'll go topo. So these are my extents, which is basically how far do I want my model to extend. Currently, we're just running off a prototype model. So this will put the boundary basically to the extents of our drill holes. So once I have all this set up, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on domain, which allows me to add a domain task. And these drill holes already have geology in them. So I've got 5 different units here and a blank unit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select a couple and drag them over to this side. I'll drag that one to ignore. So just in this window, you can see stratigraphic values and cross-cutting values. The difference between these is this is a contact surface. So basically a flat contact between 2 different units. A cross-cutting value is a intrusion. So the intrusions are going to have a hang wall and a footwall point. And what it's going to do is it's going to create a wireframe in between these 2 points. We also have ignore. So if you do have units that you don't want to model up, we can just ignore them. And then we have a couple of different options down here. So I'll go through categorical next week. This is a different type, basically, of vein intrusion. So once I've got that all set up, I can just click OK. And you'll see it'll just drop into my little window down here. And right now, everything is ready to go. So what I can do is if I just want to generate this and see what it looks like from the get-go, I'm just going to click Run All. So the first step is it's actually looking through the database. So you can see there, it's looking to see if it can find any new drill holes, which it won't be able to. So once it's done that check, it's going to move on to generating all of our proto model and topos. So sometimes this requires a little bit of time, depending on how many drill holes that you have. And now you can see here, we can see our proto model. So that's going to be our extent. And then one by one, we're going to start generating each of our wireframes. So given that we're not going to be going through, all of our wireframe generation options, these wireframes will be quite basic. Hopefully next week, if you join, you'll actually get to see us properly kind of creating all of our shapes. So it's just creating the combined model now. And then once we've done that, we can tick these off and have a little look at what it looks like. So here's our very first wireframe that's created. So if I tick off my proto model, you can see there, it squished all of our wireframes into one combined shape. So if I go into my sheets, you'll see here that I've got combined solids up here. And then I also have all of my individual veins that have been used to create this wireframe. So you get both shapes out. So that's what our initial combined model looks like. So what I'm going to do now is I'll show you on my little file screen here. So I've actually got two phases of drilling here. I've got phase one, which has generated us this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag in a couple of new CSVs. Now all this is doing is just simulating, a database dump. We've all of a sudden got some new drill holes. And now what we're going to do is, without touching anything in our dynamic modeling window, we're simply going to rerun the model and see how it changes with this new drill data. So I'm going to click run all. Now we're going to import probably 3 times the amount of drill holes. So hopefully it won't take too long. So with the other things that we can add to Studio Geo, as you can see up here, we do have a fault block, a block model, and a macro button. So these are all done in similar ways as we do them in Studio RM. The good thing about Studio Geo is that we have, for each option in here, we have a number of different properties that we can explore. So in this case, this one's the one for our proto model. So we can see here, if we were to create a block model, our parent cell size is going to be 20 by 20 by 20. We can do rotation, and we can also change the reference point. So we've got our drill holes loaded. You can see now there's a lot more drill holes. And what we're going to do is just wait for it to rerun all of our shapes, and we'll see what it looks like in comparison. So we should see, hopefully, these gaps are going to go away. And we might see some variation in our contact surface and our intrusion over here. So just while this is running, we can also just have a little look at the output. So this is letting us know exactly what the implicit modeling process is doing. It lets us know what options have been used, how many points it's using. So we can use this here as a bit of validation. We can actually save out this output each time we run the model. So if you do want that validation each time that you generate a model, we can have that all here, so you know exactly what options you used. So finally, we're doing our combined model creation. And then hopefully after that, we'll see a couple of little changes, probably nothing that major. There we go. So we can see the mole's actually extended slightly because we've had new drill holes. And we've fixed a couple of gaps here and here. We've extended this wireframe. This wireframe here looks a little bit funny. So this is where we might want to go in and actually do a little bit of interval selection. So I'm just going to turn off my combined model for now. So as you can see now, we have all these new drill holes. And here is my intrusion shape. So we can just turn these on and off as we like. Now, what we might want to do for this shape is that there is a little pinch out there, probably just caused by one single sample that doesn't belong. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn that one off for now. And I'm going to go to this button here, which is our interval selection tool. So I'm just going to click on that. You'll see here I've got my 5 lithologies. I'm going to select my swipe selection. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fix up a couple of the little issues we had. So I can see this sample here is probably what was causing one of the pinch outs. So I'm going to change that. And I can also see this sample here. I'll assign that to something else. Now, the other thing with this is it doesn't seem to extend very far this way. So, sometimes logging's been done incorrectly, and you might actually want to add some points over here. So what I can do is I can simply highlight as much as I want with this tool. Now in practice, you'd probably go through and check the core images and stuff, but for this, we can just do a quick little assign. So you can see here, all of these intervals have now changed colors. What I can do is I'm just going to do apply now. Close that window. I'm going to turn on my intrusion. Now, we don't have to regenerate the entire model every time. If we want to work on a single wireframe, all we've got to do is make the change, and you'll notice there's a little play button here, which will rerun just that wireframe. So I'm just going to click run, and we'll see the wireframe update with this new data that we've put in. So there we go. We've made it a little more extended. We do have a couple of odd things going on here. And to kind of edit that stuff, that's where we're going to go next week with our settings. So if you've ever had a little play around with the implicit model settings on Studio RM, that's all these options here. So we'll have a little look at these next week when we have a little bit more time. So that's the very condensed version of how to kind of create a combined model within Studio Geo. So you can kind of see the process and how quick it can be to update your models with new drill data. So instead of having to do wireframes independently each time, now we can generate a whole model at once, and we can do it through a single click. So once we've gone through and we've set up all of our generation options here, we can simply rerun this process just using our run all button. So that's it for this webinar. Hopefully you learned a little bit about Studio Geo, just understand a little bit about what it does. This is just my contact details. Obviously, feel free to contact me at any time if you do have any questions or inquiries. Like I said, if you want to go through some of the tools in more detail or want to learn how to do a specific thing, I'm more than happy to just give you a run through one-on-one.